Okay, now we're going to talk about range. So range is connected to the set of all y values or outputs. So this is why we are now asking ourselves the question, how far down, how far up? Because those are the specific directions that your y-axis moves. It moves up and down vertically. So I'm going to look at my examples here. Move this up a bit. And now I'm going to look at this exponential function, and I'm going to ask myself, how far down the y-axis do I need to go before I either go towards negative infinity because I keep going, or where do I stop? And it looks like my graph flattens out and it stops right at the x-axis. So I'm going to highlight the x-axis. That's as low as it goes. It doesn't go below the x-axis. And I'm going to write y is greater than 0, because that's the y value there at the x-axis. Okay, so you are going to think you need to put a bar here because it appears that the graph and the x-axis actually meet and touch. But with exponentials, when they start to flatten out, you need to know that that line that they are flattening out to, that line they never touch. So I am not going to have a bar with my greater than sign. It is just going to stay y is greater than 0. It is not going to be y is greater than or equal to 0. And now I'm going to ask myself, because I'm going to turn around at this boundary, I don't need to go down anymore, and now I'm going to ask myself, how far up the y-axis does it go? And you can see you run into an arrow at the end of your graph, which tells me that I keep going up. I cannot draw a boundary line at the top because I keep going to positive infinity. I don't have an exact number to stop going up at. And because I drew a boundary line, that boundary line inequality becomes my range. So my range is going to be y is greater than 0. Again, we are not going to have a bar, and we are not going to include 0 in our range list of values. Now I'm going to look at this graph. So first question, how far down? How far down on the y-axis do I need to go before I stop having an exponential graph? And it looks like I stop right there at 400. So I'm going to draw a boundary line. I stop here. And I'm going to write y is greater than 400 because my exponential is drawn where the x values are greater above 400. And now I just need to decide if I need a bar. Well, because I have a solid line or a solid point, there is no arrow, and it doesn't flatten out, I'm going to say is greater than or equal to 400. And now I'm going to ask myself, now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to ask myself, how far up the y-axis do I need to go before my graph stops being drawn? What's the highest y value I can get to? And I run into an arrow, which tells me that I keep going up, and I'm going to hit or approach, keep working towards positive infinity, so I can't draw a boundary up here. I don't have an exact number to stop at. And that makes my range, y is greater than or equal to 400, because that is my only boundary line. So there's my range. If I was writing this list out, I would start with 400, and then I would write all of the place values on the y-axis all the way up until positive infinity.